Hello, and welcome to another episode of How the Hell Did I Get Here with Meg and Rachel. Thanks for joining us. Today, our guest is Brian Gorman. For 5 decades, he's been engaged with change at the individual, organizational, and social levels. Today, Brian works as a certified professional coach. Through his business, TransformingLives.Coach, he serves clients who are facing major personal and professional transitions in their lives. Brian addresses change in the workplace, as a leader's role in change, and his articles for Forbes Coaches Council. Welcome, Brian.
It's great to be here, Rachel and Meg.
Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us. So Brian, tell us a little bit about your how the hell moment, when you kind of looked up and around and thought, good, bad, or otherwise, how did I get here?
Okay, so there are a couple of them. And the first one, 1967, I was a freshman at Syracuse University. I was also an extreme introvert and an Eagle Scout. And I had decided that I was going to overcome my introversion. So I did what any good Eagle Scout would do, and I joined a fraternity. But I chose Alpha Phi Omega, which is the National Service Fraternity.
Okay.
Our advisor asked for volunteers to help establish a scout troop on the Onondaga Reservation south of Syracuse, and I volunteered.
Okay.
I quickly learned that the university mascot, which was the Saltine Warrior, portrayed as a caricature of a savage Indian and portrayed at athletic events by a Caucasian fraternity brother dressed up and running around like a drunken Indian waving a tomahawk, was a racist and xenophobic mascot.
Oh, and you're supposed to go work with the reservation, huh?
So I tried for my entire undergraduate days to get the university to change its mascot to launch a Native American Studies program. I failed. And this thing called change was ignited inside of me.
Oh.
Now, I didn't realize it at the time that it had a name, nor did I realize that it was going to evolve into a profession, but it was there. And so very quickly, I got drafted out of graduate school and ended up as an Air Force drill sergeant, where I was working with 50 people every 6 weeks, going through big changes in their lives.
Wow.
Fast forward to the 1988, and I was a management consultant at KPMG, working largely with college and university mergers at the time. And they formed a partnership with Darrell Connor. Darrell is recognized as, along with John Cotter and William Bridges, as one of the founders of the whole profession of change management. And I realized this thing that I've been doing for 20 years already had a profession, had a science behind it. And so that was really the big second, how the hell did I get here moment. I don't do well good. I don't do well when I'm maintaining things. Mm-hmm. I am incredibly good at moving myself and helping other people move through change. And actually, I guess the third big how the hell did I get here moment was when I came to understand that all change is personal. Organizations don't change. Societies don't change. People change. And when we change, we can change our organizations, we can change our society. So at some point, you don't want to live in hotels and airports anymore. And,
yeah, amen to that.
And taking people on their personal or their business change journeys as a coach is a different modality, but the same change journey as when I was working on global transformations with major corporations.
Yeah, that's so interesting. We often say when we work with companies, whether big or small, that it doesn't really matter the size because we're always working with the people that are in front of us. And there's only so many people you can do that with. So it is interesting that it is that personal, it's those personal connections and change that matters so much. And that leads into sort of your culture type, which is an independent in our Helix culture type world. And that means that you're chaos tolerant and you're self-driven. So it sounds like that's pretty much what your career has been experiencing, in the sense of, you're as an independent, usually that means you're not afraid to take an unconventional path. So were you do you feel like that you were able to move around in the way you wanted? Did you wish for more of that? Or how do you reflect back on that?
So my unconventional path, from drill sergeant to creating a living learning center, to reinvigorating an annual giving program, to consulting with colleges and universities, to establishing the infrastructure to stabilize a young AIDS service organization. Unconventional path. Again, the common thread being change.
And you're a do-gooder, let's be honest. I mean, change and you're a do-gooder. I mean, seems like that's a theme.
Okay, I'll accept that. But it has required being that independent, that risk taker, that ability to sort through the chaos and find the stability, the anchors, the way through.
And what do you think is the most important part of that when you help your clients and your coaching clients?
Two things I would say. One is knowing the journey. And Joseph Campbell called it the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. There's only one path that we take over and over again, even though we tend to treat every change like it's different. And the other is really helping my clients identify the gremlins that are getting in their way and turning them into gurus to help them move through.
Interesting. Do you have what's your favorite story about that?
I don't know. There are so many. I'll just mention one client I was working with today. I said, what would you name that fear? In her 50s and wanting to go for her MBA because she knows that that's what she needs for her next career advancement. She said, I'd call it Goliath. I said, okay, David, how are we going to slay it?
Yeah.
Right. What rock are you going to use?
Yep.
Yeah, it's really interesting how powerful it can be to, as you said, identify the fear and then decide, because it instantly gives you the power to decide that you're going to do something about it. Because there's so many people that, a lot of us just walk around with it, carrying this fear, and we don't know what it is. We just know it prevents us from doing anything different. Fascinating. There's so many people that need us, all three of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fear of failure and sometimes it's fear of success.
Yep. And I think too, sometimes the amazing thing to me is often we don't even know we're afraid. It really, and then you're like, well, I don't know why I haven't done this thing or that thing. And you don't feel the visceral fear. You just there's something stopping you from moving ahead. And it's often, we don't even know why. And that's the fascinating thing to me. Or we don't, or sometimes it makes us act strange or not do things the way we would normally do them. And we don't even understand why. And then, we try to engage with other humans in our life and we don't understand why, and they don't understand what's going on with them. And then it's a miracle anyone ever gets along, frankly, especially through big transformation, because it is really quite disruptive. So all of those transformations that you've gone through, Brian, what's a big one? What's one that really sticks out besides the couple you've shared? What are some other ones that?
Well, the biggest one personally was taking in a homeless young man who was 18 at the time, and homeless because he's gay, and bringing him into my home in my life and adopting him.
Wow, that is so independent.
And do-goodery. Speaking of being a do-gooder.
Independent do-goodery. And how long ago was that, Brian?
10 years ago.
10 years.
Yeah.
And how's it going? How did it go? How did it turn out?
It's still going. It's still going good. He taught me that there is such a thing as unconditional love.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
Well, we've got to everyone get some tissues out.
I want to take this moment to say to anyone who ever listens to our podcast, I told you independents are capable of loving.
Oh, well, Brian, so here's the secret to all of the listeners. Here's the secret to the independents. They can come off as like really black and white, sort of sometimes like too logical. But honestly, they all have these gooey centers. Like, so once you get past that sort of hard shell thing, they're just gooey all over. They don't like to admit it all the time. So it's definitely in there. You just got to get it there.
This is accurate. At least this is what Rachel tells me about myself. My therapy sessions with Rachel
that's right.
have uncovered that, in fact, I have a gooey center.
Like I'm sorry. Brian's is a little more closer to the surface, maybe in some ways.
Perhaps mine is kind of, you got to chisel away a little ice first.
Right. Although as a drill sergeant or whatever, I imagine it was more hidden back in the day. But
I used to teach my trainees how to visualize.
Oh, look at you.
That's an important tactic.
How to survive, right?
Yeah.
That's how the only way I'd survive boot camp is to visualize myself somewhere else.
Oh. Well, Brian, we could obviously chat with you for hours, but in our effort to keep these bite-sized so people can listen to them, we will stop the show for today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to hear your story. Thanks for sharing that. And to the rest of you, lead powerfully.
Change the world.